Hello, Internet. This is me, and this is my amusing Canadian accent. But that's not going to be the focus of this video. Uh, this is pretty much a standard transition diary, I guess, that I'm starting up here. But I don't really want to focus so much on the physical changes of my transition. Most of which hasn't really even started yet because I won't be taking testosterone until like the spring sometime. But I want to get a lot of dialogue going about the transsexual experience and just what it's like emotionally, psychologically, socially, and a lot of what motivates transsexual people to make the choices that they do. And like I was thinking today about I'm out to everyone in my life, like at work and family, like everywhere. And when I came out as trans to all my acquaintances and family and friends, and I told them that I wanted to transition completely, medically and every other way, a lot of people were just like, why are you deciding to have a sex change? But, which is kind of a funny question because it sounds so science fiction. It's like, I'm not just going to go inside some machine and then like come out and be a dude. But that's beside the point. But when people ask me about that, a lot of times you hear people say it's not a choice. And that's true, and it's also not true. Like, transitioning is a choice. Being a transsexual is not a choice. But deciding to do something about it really is, to make yourself happy in your life. But when people ask me why I'm doing it, I always tell them it's literally like a matter of life and death. And they seem to think that that's like a really extreme thing to say. But it's really not at all, when you think about it, because people look at your physical sex and people look at your physical body as being like a concrete, tangible fact. It's like who you are because they can see it, and it's a code. It's how we organize who's who in life. And no one can see who you are inside. That's not a tangible thing that someone can touch and look at and be aware of unless you share it. But who you are, your gender identity, your sexual orientation, your mind, your emotions, that's really your existence. That's in your brain, your instinct to survive and to exist encompasses all of that. It's you. And to suppress that, to be asked to suppress all of that, all of the reality of who you really are, for the sake of like social convenience, for the sake of other people's comfort, is really asking a lot. It's basically asking an individual to psychologically commit suicide in order to just get along every day. And I've tried to explain it to people a lot of times when they just seem to really be struggling with like what it must feel like or where my motivations are coming from. I always describe it as being like, the Mrs. Doubtfire movie with Robin Williams, and he dresses up like in the lady costume because he wants to hang out with his kids. And it's a funny movie and everything, but it actually is a lot like that, and that really strikes a chord with me. And that's what I always say is it's like being Mrs. Doubtfire. It's like living in the closet and pretending to be this other person is like literally wearing a full body lady suit and going around like building up an actual personality and a character around that costume so that it seems more real and more believable. And That way you're allowed to exist and have family and be around people, and you're not going to be afraid that someone's, going to like beat the crap out of you for just being yourself or whatever. But it's sad to have to do that. Just to feel that you have to do that just to live your life. It's really asking a lot, honestly, to expect anyone to be able to sustain that and to remain psychologically healthy. And it can be really tempting to sustain, though. Like, a lot of people ask me, because I'm like in my early 30s now, and I'm just starting to do this. And I see so many people who are a lot younger than me, like, expressing themselves as trans, and they're educated and they know what they can and can't do, and they're dealing with it so much earlier than I ever did. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with the fact that there's just the internet. I mean, there's so much more accessibility of communicating about this stuff and figuring ourselves out. But I really got stuck in that whole Mrs. Doubtfire closet syndrome for a long time, because, it's like I was pretending to be someone I wasn't to sort of support that illusion that my body was who I am. And you're lonely, you're isolated, and then maybe someone falls in love with you, or in that body that you don't want to be in, and it feels good to have somebody want you to be that person in their life, and to be accepted, and it's almost like you'll take what you can get at that point, and you want to be that person for them, like make that phony character, that lady, be more of a real person, so that you can have these things that you just naturally want as a human being. And I guess, I don't know, I had to get to a point where I just couldn't sustain that kind of a lie anymore. I realized that I was living like this, it was like living in a dream. Like, coming out and transitioning and just being who I am for once in my life is literally like waking up from this bizarre dream where I was this girl. And the whole time, I was dreaming, I knew I wasn't her, and that it didn't make sense. But to wake up from that, it's like this relief. Like, of course, I'm this guy. I know who I am. I always have been that person. But I don't know. I'm sort of rambling because it's kind of it's a hard thing to articulate. But I guess I'm trying to say it's a lot to ask somebody to suppress all of who they are and to sustain that. Like, no one wants to be laying there they're 85 years old on their deathbed thinking, oh my God, no one ever knew me. I never lived my life. Like, what? That's such a nightmare. That's a death, like, worse than just doing yourself in. Honestly, to me, that's like the worst thing. And when I realized that that was pretty much the road I was going down on, I couldn't do that. Like, I want to survive psychologically, emotionally. I want to live. So yeah, it's a life and death thing. Whether you get to the point of actually killing yourself, God forbid, but a lot of trans people do. Or whether you just never ever live your real life until it's pretty much too late. Like, it's a matter of life and death. And everybody has the right to live and to follow that instinct to survive. And if somebody asks any person, like, hey, totally suppress everything about who you are and never have a real life and never be free. Like, if anybody asked another person to do that just for the sake of social comfort, I'm pretty sure that, the response would be a resounding fuck you. to that request if it were put that bluntly. And that's really what's happening. It is being put that bluntly. Just not maybe in those words, but that's what's being asked of a lot of trans people, to just do that, like to just sort of go away. And we're not going to go away. It doesn't go away. So anyway, I like being alive. I like existing. I think I'm a pretty cool guy, and I hope you do too.